How do you stay motivated? The short answer is you don't. You just wait till you have kids and you're going to gain 40 pounds and there's nothing you can do.
I'm giving away control and I don't have to be accountable.
Or it's going to be your reason to make sure that you stay as fit, as healthy as possible.
It turns into identity. I'm the type of person who brushes my teeth. I'm the type of person who works out.
Welcome to the Armoury Podcast, episode number 5. This one might be a little more controversial. We're going to talk about the decisions that we make in our lives, the really important ones, and whether we make them based on excuses or reasons. So grab your coffee, put your feet up, and buckle up.
Matt, recently you were telling me about a conversation that you had with two separate people, both with very similar situations. And each of them needed to make a decision based on that similar situation, but they ended up going in two completely different directions with it. And you said that that brought about an epiphany for you. And I thought that was really interesting. So tell us about that.
Right. Yeah, it was just a few weeks ago. And the example was around kids, right? And the one person, they described their situation with their kids, and that's something we can all relate to, that we're busy and have challenges and activities and different stuff. And they said, because of my kids, I can't work out. Basically, I don't have time to do this. And it was because of my kids and their activities. And it was like, okay, yeah, we're each at a different place, whatever. But then it was at the same day, I was talking to someone else and we got into talking about their kids. And they said, because of my kids, I can't not work out. I can't not do this. And they listed these other reasons for why they felt like they needed to do it. So I went away thinking about that later, and it hit me with this thing, and I just kind of wrote down some notes, always thinking, and it's like, it wasn't the kids per se. Yes, all our situations have different challenges, and but it wasn't necessarily the kids. It was the response to having kids, of the choice that was made and how we framed that in our mind. One, it led them to what I would say is more of an excuse, and the other, they were a reason, right? And I thought of all these different ways how in life we're constantly taking things in our life and we're either making them excuses or reasons. Excuses or reasons. And we talked a little bit about that, and I just thought, like, this is functioning for all of us. It happens to us as well, but we have the power to choose. We have the power to choose what we're going to do with every stimulus in our life, and whether it's going to be something that benefits us or something that ultimately, makes it a reason as to why we can't do something or become who we want to be.
And I think it's a very common one is having a family, having kids, and women especially feel like they need to be doing it all. A little bit of the Martyr Syndrome, and I was very much part of that. I wanted to be able to sit with those other moms and match them, activity for activity, busy for busy, committee for committee. And the problem is when you do that, is that seems to become your excuse for not prioritizing your own health, and for making it all about them. And this is why I can't take care of me. And I think it's really important for moms, for women to know that, first of all, your health should be a priority simply because you're human, you're a good person. Mm-hmm. And secondly, because you're trying to model something. If you look at your life and is it chaotic and busy, and are you putting yourself at the very tail end of all the priorities? And is that what you want to model? Is that what you want to see your kids doing as they grow up? Mm-hmm. Is neglecting themselves. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a really important point. It is either something you may use as an excuse, and I know that's going to get some people a little riled up, is, well, you don't understand, my life is so busy. Mm-hmm. I think you need to understand there's never going to be a stage in life where you aren't busy. Yes. It's just different kinds of busy. So whether you decide to make something an excuse or to make it a reason to make your health a priority is a choice. Mm-hmm.
And I think really one of the most important choices that we can make is when you think about long-term thinking, I think, is a superpower, right? And if you take two people in their situations, and let's use kids as example, one couldn't take care of themselves, couldn't strength training, do something fitness related, walk, get activity, eat decently, kind of like an adult. They couldn't do all that, and it was because of their kids, right? And then you multiply that by 5 years, 10 years, compared to the person that, because of my kids, I can't not do this. I need to be, and they list things instead that are like empowering. They get you excited. It's like, I need to model an example for my kids that we need to take care of ourselves, hoping they follow in our footsteps, right? Who wants poor health for their kids? Who would ever wish that, right? And you see these two completely different roads that diverge, all from really this one stimulus, kids having them, and what the reason is, whether we use it more as an excuse or a reason. And after 5 years, 10 years, right? One it's like, I'm being an example, and it's going to give me energy and help me with my mental health, help me with my physical image of myself, and show how taking care of myself is so important, and hoping that my kids will also follow that example, compared to someone who, the word you said, a total martyr possibly, right? Or that just doesn't have time. And yeah, they're getting around to every activity and every sport, and that's great, right? I want to create opportunity for my kids too, but they're being run all over the place. But maybe because we're not taking care of ourselves, what you see when you look in the mirror, you don't like it, right? And you're talking bad to yourself. Your mental health is not good. You're stressed, anxiety, possibly medication, and that's not going to filter down to your kids. We're now, just from that choice, it tends to be that you wake up and you either lose your mind or you're yelling, and it's going to filter down to your kids. So what they say is like, oh, because of my kids, I can't, take care of myself and have health and strength, and develop habits to do that. It's because of my kids, but they end up paying a big price for that as well.
Absolutely.
Not just yourself.
Well, imagine 10 years from now, too, saying to your kids, like, I am in the condition I'm in because of you. I mean, that's really what you're saying.
Yes.
Is I'm in the condition I am mentally, physically, emotionally, because you took all my energy. I was so busy making sure that you got everything you wanted, and now my health is completely trashed. Mm-hmm. Not saying that you don't do anything with your kids. Like you said, you want to create opportunities for them. You want them to be involved in activities. Mm-hmm. But how cool for your kids to see that they're the reason that you want to make sure that you're healthy. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure that you're making those good choices, is because you value your ability to look after them. You value your mental health. Mm-hmm. You don't want to be run down. You don't want to be emotionally exhausted. Mm-hmm. So, part of the reasons you made some of the decisions you did was to be healthy.
Yes.
Not just, for yourself too, but also for them. I think that's an amazing example.
Yes. And, I think we are touching on a bit of a touchy topic, right?
Oh, definitely.
I'm sure there's, who knows, leave some comments for us. Right. But I've been in the fitness industry for a long time now. I've seen it over and over and over, where it's like, well, that person's busy and that person's busy. Like you said, like that just seems to be the word. Even to introduce yourself or talk to someone at the post office. How are you doing today? Busy. Like, kind of drives me crazy, to tell you the truth, right? It's like, I make a point. I'm never answering with busy regardless, right? But anyways, that's a different podcast maybe. It's like, this person's busy and that person's busy. And this person's crushing it and this person says they can't because of, we're using the example of kids. But it also would be very easy to replace that with work, or your career, or travel, or whatever is entailed in your life. It's like some person is really busy, really career oriented, big hours they're putting in, but they're fit, strong, and healthy. They're making it happen, right? Someone else, similar circumstance, and they're more on the other side as we've listed, right? Either we're overweight or we're depressed, and it's like, it's not the busyness, because I've seen it over and over and over. It's not the kids, even though each situation is a little bit different. But I've seen people with 2 kids say, because of my kids, I can't take care of myself. And then I see people with 8 kids who are taking care of themselves, and they make it. So it comes down to, of course, things we talk about, like priorities. But this, it's like, that's the stimulus. What's my response is what it comes down to. Put work there, put kids there. But the people that respond because of these things, because of my work, and I just met with a man who's, because of his work and the businesses and everything, he realizes that he needs to take better care of himself. And so we're going to do some personal training. Whereas there's the other side, because of my work, because of my businesses, I can't work out. I can't take care of myself. And again, long-term thinking, those are 2 very, very different roads that people will end up going down, for better or for worse. So really, talking about this topic today, I think it really is one of the more important decisions that we can make. And I would say another one that we run into all the time that you could definitely identify with is injuries. Or so now it's not so much time or kids, but it's another one that we pointed out we run into all the time. Maybe tell us a little bit about what
injury
what you
is
deal
one
with.
we do hear a lot about. It's, I'd love to come work out, but, I've got this bum ankle, or, I've got a bad shoulder, or, I've got a knee that just doesn't want to cooperate, so I can't work out. And, I take that very personally because I do have some very chronic knee issues. And that likely, they're not going to, it's not going to miraculously, I'm going to have really strong, healthy knees again in my lifetime. But that can be an excuse. It doesn't feel great. Or, I would rather just sit and put my feet up. But it has become my reason, not an excuse. Because I have been told by more than one medical expert that if I was not strength training, I would be walking with a cane. And it is my reason, is because I want to be strong and healthy and independent for as long as possible. And this is not going to stop me. This is what is helping me. And so if you are using an injury, barring any medical advice, because we never go against medical advice. So if a doctor has said, no, you absolutely cannot, this is what you need to do, well, then you follow medical advice.
Yeah.
But there are very few times where strength training or some form of physical activity isn't going to help you. It's always going to help you in those situations. So if you're saying that you're waiting until, everything is just in tip-top shape, those days are probably past. For most people, those days are past.
Yes.
And I know you also deal with a chronic condition.
Absolutely, yes. I ruptured a disc, played a lot of golf, probably had a little ego in there when I was young, swinging too hard, trying to go for the long ball, and I'm not a big man. And eventually I ruptured a disc when I was 19. And it's as you know, it's created a lot of challenges for me, and it still hurts every day, right? And sometimes when I say that, a friend asked me about it recently. He's like, "Oh, your back still hurts?" Like I thought that was like before when you had that really bad injury. It's like it hurts every day from the time I wake up till the time I go to bed. And I can say the same thing too. That strength training. It might not feel great, but it definitely feels better doing some strength training. I can even feel it if I get busy and go, for me, more than 3 days without strength training. I feel stiffer. I feel like, so yeah, I got to be smart. The days of deadlifting 500 pounds, not that I actually ever did that, sorry, but like try. The day of dreaming of deadlifting 500 pounds or attempting big weight, like that's not on the menu for me anymore. Right. But what too many people do, I think, to sabotage themselves is because they say, because I can't do that, then I'm not going to do anything. Right. And I can easily say, as you could with your knee, with my back, if I was waiting for it to feel better, and then I'm going to start taking care of myself, that day never comes.
And that's important, that getting stronger is taking care of yourself.
Yes.
And that's where having coaches and personal trainers that can help you, that can modify things, that can make sure that you're not doing anything to endanger, what already hurts, is critical.
Yes, it is. And actually, just that makes me think we have even more recently, a couple examples of either reason or excuse. We had Cassandra, and she had surgery on her foot, and she had the boot on and crutches, and she was coming. She was there.
I think the moment she got clearance from her doctor to be in there, she was in there with her crutches. Yes. We set her up with a bench.
Yes.
And she crushed it.
Yes. And she didn't gain any weight after having, months in the boot and such, not really being able to obviously, walk and get activity that way. But she was like motivated just by coming and doing what she could. And yes, she had our support and coaching and taking care of her in the right way. We weren't making her do back squats with one foot in the boot. But so she was leveraging all that, and it ended up being that she came out of that experience not feeling like she's starting from square one, or she gained 10, 15 pounds because, we're just sitting around, we're just waiting.
And with her mental health would have crashed too. Yeah. She talked about that, about how even just walking in and seeing people and being part of it kept her mental health, her optimism, all that so much more positive.
Yes.
And I read a study or an article that Andrew Coates had sent me on Kabuki strength, and it talks about, they call it muscle education. So what they did in this study is they immobilized a limb on everybody in this group, and then they divided them, and half trained the uninjured side, or the side that was not immobilized. The other half did nothing. And then at the end of the study, it was so fascinating that not only the people who kept training, who kept working the side that was not immobilized, not only did they preserve muscle mass in the limb that was immobilized, but they actually gained a little bit of strength. So there's some transfer there, which I found absolutely fascinating. And I think I know we didn't have a scientific study going with Cassandra, but she recently set some pretty ridiculous PRs. And I'm a firm believer that it was because she kept training what she could. And that transfer, that muscle education that Andrew spoke about in his article, was very much evident with her. And we've got a current member who is, facing some restrictions. So I'll let you talk about that one.
Yeah, I think body weight only is what she's been saying. What she's been told, from a medical professional, right? So as you say, we follow medical advice, whatever we're told. It's not like, just go against that, do whatever you want. This is what you need to do. No, we're going to follow that. Okay, body weight only. And you could tell when she was saying this, she was like discouraged, and she's like, only body weight.
I don't know.
And we're sitting there we're like, oh, no problem. So we've made adjustments, right? Body weight only. We're staying within that, but her legs are getting trashed with things like pistol squats and different things that we've brought in with our knowledge to make it so she's still making progress. Where I know when she heard that news, it was almost like reason enough to be like, well, why keep going? Why try?
And that she had said she was worried at first, that she wasn't going to be able to even come, because you could see on her face this was not going to be good for her to not be able to do anything. So it's made a big difference. And so to let injury or restriction or something like that, to make that an excuse to not look after yourself, only takes you down that road so much quicker. Whereas if you use it as a reason that, I've got this knee that is probably not going to feel better, so I'm going to do everything I can to make sure it doesn't deteriorate quickly. It's become my reason to be as strong and as healthy as possible.
Which is exactly what we're talking about today.
Yes.
That's what we're talking, right? Whereas I think too many people it is that I need this to get better, and then, right, they move themselves with injury or restriction, which, let's face it, most people have in some way, shape, or form as the years go on. And they move themselves to a place I like to talk about called Someday Isle. You know?
Clean up on Someday Isle.
Exactly. It's this destination, right? That someday, and we can envision the palm trees or whatever beautiful thing we want. Someday, when all the stars align, I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna start this, right? And I know, as you know, just with our personal examples, right, in 10 years of me living in Someday Isle, my back is no better. It's actually worse.
Much worse.
Because now I'm weak, I'm deconditioned, I'm most likely overweight. I haven't been eating as good because working out is a big part of me just to be motivated to eat enough protein and take care of myself
and
that
you
way.
Sit around.
I'd be sitting around, and then like you can just see inevitably how that, and then that affects my relationship with my wife, that affects my relationship with my kids, because how I feel about myself. But someday, Joe, when everything is better, I'm really going to go for it.
I'm going to go for it. Well,
I'm going to start that workout plan.
That makes me think of when people say, you just wait until.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I know I got told that a lot. You know, I was really active growing up, and you know, and then it was, you just wait till you have kids. Mm-hmm. As if, you know, when you have kids, it's just everything's going to go downhill. It is more difficult, yes. And your body changes, yes. Mm-hmm. And the one that I have heard quite a bit, and especially with kind of the population we serve, and it's interesting when you start posting fitness content or things like that online, people will comment. The most recent one is, you just wait until menopause. All right, people, I turned 55 at the end of the month. Pretty sure I'm there. And yes, it gets more difficult, but it doesn't have to be an absolute landslide. Like, it's not like it just tanks. And everybody wants you to believe that, mm-hmm. because then that is so if it's going to be more difficult through menopause, mm-hmm. that is either your excuse to let everything go, mm-hmm. your health, you know, absolutely everything, mm-hmm. and you're going to gain 40 pounds and there's nothing you can do, or it's going to be your reason, mm-hmm. to make sure that you stay as fit, as healthy as possible. Absolutely. And I think that it is critical to realize that you do still have some control. Mm-hmm. You don't have all the control. Your body is going to age. It's going to become more difficult. Mm-hmm. So what? Mm-hmm. So what are you going to do about it?
I think with control, that's a good point. I think if we're willing to be brutally honest with ourselves, this is as a man, as a woman, as different stages of life, kids, everything we're kind of talking about, we have far more control than we like to admit. Because if we're really willing to dig deep and realize that we have actually designed the vast majority of our current reality, well, that comes with some, some accountability. That comes with some, and I'm not saying you need to go into this deep land of regret if you're not perfectly happy with where you are. But most people, it seems, or many people, they don't want to face those type of things. They don't want to go in. It's easier to say that it's something else, right? It's my kids, it's my job, it's different phases of my life, whatever it is, and that is the reason, because then I'm giving away control and I don't have to be accountable to that, whether it's that I put my kids in 16 different sporting activities and I've totally overwhelmed myself with, like you said, kind of as a martyr, every committee, every this, that, and you've chosen to do that. And we don't have to really take a hard look to possibly make some changes to be like, whoa, like, I'm burning out here, or whoa, I really don't like what's happening in the mirror, or how I feel, or my mental health, or I don't want to be on these pills. Maybe I don't need to be if I just make some different choices, right? But that's hard.
That's hard. And you have to accept that it's the choices that you made, they've been cumulative. Mm-hmm. So they do add up. It isn't like, they call it the freshman 15. Your freshman year at away from home at school, you're going to gain 15 pounds. Well, it isn't like you 1 month, all of a sudden, it just all comes, you wake up one morning. It's cumulative. It's the habits.
Yes.
And it's the same thing with any stage of life. And so does it get harder? When you have kids, when you have an injury, when, you're aging? Absolutely. So that either becomes your excuse to let everything just tank, or it becomes your reason to make it a priority that your health and fitness choices matter.
Absolutely. And actually, I can just with my own story, like it is true, right? Like, does it become harder having kids? Absolutely. And yet I've got a 7-year-old and 5-year-old, and I've avoided the dad bod, right? That's kind of the thing with menopause, or you just wait, right? Like, it's inevitable. You get the dad bod, right? You're married, no motivation to impress the girls, and you got these kids, they take all your time. So it's inevitable. Well, no, it's not.
Well,
right?
you're starting to push 40, so you just wait. You just wait till you're
that
40.
day, that calendar day, everything changes. It all falls apart from there. So you just wait. Exactly, right? This pessimistic view projecting their own experiences into possibly everyone else's. But I think I was going somewhere with that as well, that the dad bod. Oh, I was saying, things don't get easier. But something that came to me is life is not supposed to be easy. When you embrace that things are supposed to be hard in certain ways, right? And a certain amount of challenge in your life is not a bad thing. It's a good thing that we have challenges to deal with and to face, right? And there's all sorts of different angles that you can come from that. So the challenge of it's hard to fit in physical fitness, strength training, eating right, absolutely. But does that mean, well, since that's hard, that means I don't do it at all? Because like hard is a bad thing, right? And also, another thing I thought of is that, things can look a little bit different. I think people get into a problem. How I strength train and how often and how long now is very different than in my 20s when I was a natural bodybuilder. I was single. I lived at home. I personal trained. You know what I mean? I didn't have near as much responsibilities, right? So did the workouts look a little bit different then? Yeah, absolutely. Was I able to put in a little more time? Yeah, absolutely I was, right? But to realize, hey, I can shift a little bit, to realize on three days a week at 45 minutes is really, that's what I need. If I can hit that, I'm good. Is that enough to put me on the natural bodybuilding stage? No, probably not. But that's not my goal anymore. My goal is health. My goal is, the example. My goal is living my passion and be an example even for our members. What's the use of having a coach if they don't do what they say?
Right.
So I've got all these reasons, but that doesn't mean it needs to look like it did in my 20s. Now that I'm, as you say, pushing 40, when life is about to fall apart, well, my workouts can look different and I can still achieve my goals. I can still be fit, strong, and healthy.
And that's what I say to people when they say, well, I'm going to be 40. So now what? I've got 3 kids. Well, so now what?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to stop there. It shouldn't stop there. So if we've got, we've talked about the kids and the busy and the injury restrictions and, maybe things creak and groan and hurt a little bit. And then, whatever stage of life you're at. So what would you suggest is a way that people can start? If you want to start shifting, if you being brutally honest with yourself about the choices you've made. We all make excuses for when we want things to be comfortable and easy. What would be something that you would suggest? Where would be a starting point?
I actually just finished a book by Cal Newport, I think is his name, and it's so good they can't ignore you. And he has a concept in there that I think would really work well here. And he's focusing it on like careers and things like that, but it can work in many different ways. And he says little bets is what he calls it. Make little bets. And he had his definition of what that means as far as a career. But what that would mean, I think, as far as trying to make some change, being someone who's possibly identified, I'm making excuses, I'm not taking care of myself, and maybe I'm getting a little defensive hearing what we're saying right now, that sort of thing. It's like, we got to start taking a little bet on yourself. And what that would be is maybe it could be as simple as I wake up 20 minutes earlier and I do a little mobility routine. I go for a quick walk. I journal for 5 minutes. Things, and like this small thing could have a massive impact on your day. You're feeling a bit better. Is that enough to gain strength and all this? Well, no, there would have to be a little bit more, but it's a start. You know what I mean? And maybe just compare that to someone who doesn't have time, right? And hit snooze 3 times, and your routine is just get up, start yelling at your kids. It's time to go to school. We got to go. It's a rush. Well, just think of the difference that small bet made on just using that as a simple example.
So you're saying make a small change,
yes,
just one little thing.
That is extremely doable, and I think the way that I think about it is it always seems to be that brushing your teeth always comes up as a really good example for things. But I think the equivalent of what people do that use their kids or work as an excuse, like using the analogy of brushing their teeth, it's like, I can't brush my teeth for, this way that this dental place says, like whatever, whether it's, I don't even know what it is, but let's say it's 8 minutes and you're supposed to spend like 30 seconds on each tooth, and it's like crazy. And people are like, what so many people do with their fitness and with what we're talking about is they say, that's not doable for me, so I'm just not going to brush my teeth.
I can't live at the gym, so I can't ever work out.
Yes, I can't do, 5 days a week for 2 hours, or I can't. And they just shoot themselves in the foot thinking it has to look perfect. It has to be all in or nothing, right? And with the toothbrushing example, I'm talking about long-term thinking. Think of someone, okay, they have 8 minutes and 30 seconds a tooth. That's on the one end of the spectrum. Then there's the person that can't do that, so they just decide they're not going to brush their teeth at all for like 5 years or 10 years.
All our dental assistants are just cringing.
Yeah, so are Louise. And, but it's like, so I'm not going to brush my teeth at all. Just think how much of a difference brushing your teeth for 1 minute would make in that scenario. Would you maybe have the odd cavity? Would it maybe not be perfect? Absolutely. But compared to nothing, right? And I think with using like brushing teeth, yeah, people are like disgusted, not brush your teeth for 10 years. And of course they can see, yeah, my teeth, that's going to have a high cost, right? That's going to come if that's what I'm going to do. But with our bodies just supposed to take care of it. I'm not going to strength train. I'm not going to do things for my mental health, physical health, even if they only take 45 minutes 3 times a week as like a marker. I'm not going to do all that because I've got some someday I'll, or different things we mentioned. So I'm going to do nothing at all. Ever. And it's because of my kids or because of my work. And I'm going to expect in 10 years that everything is going to be great. Mentally, physically, my weight. It's like expecting to have perfect teeth after 10 years of not brushing your teeth because you didn't have time.
Or being shocked that after 10 years of not brushing your teeth, you've got a mouthful of tooth decay.
That's what
it's just all, you're 40, you haven't brushed your teeth, and it just all went downhill because you turned 40, yeah. Not because you didn't brush your teeth.
Yes.
It's the same sort of analogy.
Yes, it's getting rid of control, putting it on something outside of yourself, so I don't have to kind of face the consequences or be accountable that, hey, I chose to not brush my teeth, right, because of all the different reasons that it could be. And because of that, 5 years, 10 years, my mouth is killing me, right? I've lost teeth. I look terrible. Let's face it, right? I've got terrible breath, right? There's physical things. Think of all the things that would come from that. But it's not my fault. It's not because I didn't choose, anything to do with brushing my teeth. It's because my kids' bedtime routine takes too long, so I didn't have time to brush my teeth for those 10 years.
I didn't have the best electric toothbrush. Yeah, you can always find
whatever you're looking for. Whatever you're looking for.
So I think that's part of it is and we get asked too, how do you stay motivated? The short answer is you don't.
Yes.
You don't.
I think with that would lead into like So you take some small bets. I'm just taking that from the book, that concept, i.e. whether it's getting up 20 minutes earlier to change the way you start your day.
Something little.
Whether it is like, hey, 3 times a week for 45 minutes, I'm doing it. That's a small bet. It's not 8 hours, 5 times a week, right? So you got to take those little bets. And as you take those little bets, as soon as you start experiencing a little bit of, success or feeling a little bit better, it kind of creates this upward spiral of, okay, motivation. Well, I would say it goes further than that, and it turns into identity.
Yes.
I'm the type of person who brushes my teeth. I'm the type of person who works out. It doesn't mean I'm addicted or live in the gym, but this is what I do. And then you have your reasons for that, because the willpower, the motivation is absolutely never always going to be there. It actually will probably, even speaking around working out and strength training, as someone that it is my passion, I would say it's 50-50. Days that I feel like working out and days that I don't feel like working out, right? But it's a workout day. It's time to put it in. And the key for me with what we're talking about here is that, well, I don't care whether I feel like working out or not working out. It's part of my identity. I am someone who works out. I am someone that does this. So I'm not looking for constant motivation, right? Even myself, if I was always wanting to feel motivated to strength train and to work out, I wouldn't be very consistent either. It's because it's my identity, and I'm sure you can say something similar.
I can't remember the last time I was really motivated to brush my teeth. Yes. Really motivated. Like, man,
only 2 more hours and I could get ready for bed and brush my teeth.
Use willpower. Yes. You got to let go of all of that,
yes.
And it just becomes something that you do. And I would agree. I mean, even today, I really didn't feel like working out after the 6 a.m. class. I would have liked to have just gone and put my feet up, laid down on the couch, maybe had a little snooze.
Yeah.
But part of the strategy I have is just do the warm up.
Yes.
Just do the warm up. Then it's like, oh, I'll just do one thing. Oh, I may as well do another thing. So for anything like that, just start. And give yourself permit. Just start. Chances are you'll go a little further than that. Mm-hmm. And every time you do that, it becomes harder and harder to not do it. It, like you said, becomes part of your identity.
Yes.
And I think that's actually a really good point. It goes along with the little bets and the identity. For a lot of things, right? If you aim to just do the warm-up, it's like you got yourself to start that, and you ended up completing the whole workout because your mind starts going, well, I'm already warmed up. I might as well do this and that.
I don't have to warm up again.
I had a friend who I talked to recently who said, man, I was recommending some good books. He's starting a business. He's making big changes in his life. And it's like, this book, this is a great one. And he had it. He showed it to me. He's holding it on our video call through the screen. It's like, I'm not making the time. And I said, read one page. Read one page. When you wake up in the morning, you say you're going to read one page. And I guarantee when you start thinking you're going to read one page, you'll read more.
You'll read more.
Yeah. Once you get going, it's fine, right? And that works for everything. Folding the laundry. I'll fold one pair of socks. Well, I've already folded one pair of socks, so I guess I'll fold a bit more. It works for everything. And again, I think it's that small little, that mindset around the small, so that it actually motivates you to start, as opposed to everything being big, right? Where if it's not perfect, if it's not the 8-minute toothbrushing, if you end up on Sunday aisle and then you don't start, right? Because you've got your excuses that you formed as to why it's okay for you to not start.
And then not waiting till you feel like doing it.
Yes.
Because, let's be honest, there's a lot in life you don't feel like doing, but you do it because you need to, and then
it needs to be done.
And then you brush your teeth because otherwise it's gross.
I don't think I'm gonna be the guy, on social media that it's like they always do those weird different tests. It's like, I didn't brush my teeth for a year, and this is what happened.
No, please don't.
I don't think I'll be the guy, right? So we obviously realize with that analogy, don't have your excuses as to why you can't brush your teeth, and expect strong, healthy, good-looking teeth.
And that analogy can apply to anything.
Anything.
Exactly. Right. And then we talked about the third one, The third sort of suggestion we have for people, which I absolutely love.
You're getting real good at it.
I love this one. This is a skill that I had to develop. And it was very uncomfortable at first, and then I'm actually really good at it now.
And I'm pretty sure what you're talking about is that you got to leverage the power of no.
The power of no, no,
Right.
and that's okay. And the one thing I had to learn is no is a complete sentence.
Mm-hmm.
That you don't have to give a long, convoluted explanation why you can't do something or why you can't be on the committee or why you can't continue to be the go-to person for absolutely everything or everybody's 911 call.
Mm-hmm.
That sometimes when you say no to things, it's because you're saying yes to yourself.
Yeah.
And, I think I'm at a stage now where if it's not an enthusiastic yes, it's more than likely just going to be a no.
Which I think is probably you're a great example, because with that, I mean, it's like it's gone together. Your power and ability to say no, and you're in the shape of your life. You're fit, strong, and jacked, with a pretty major knee injury, some of the reasons we've talked about, right? You look great. You're achieving things in the gym, multiple chin-ups and things that women dream of. And maybe that had a lot to do with being willing to say no.
Oh, absolutely.
And make some priorities. And okay, right, someone else could say, oh, your kids are grown up, they're moved out, easy for you someday.
But you just wait till you hit menopause.
Well, right, then it's all over.
There's always something, and it isn't just that I'm trying to hurt people. I'm just trying to cut them all out of my life and saying no. Mm-hmm. It's that will this help me a year, 5 years, 10 years down the road? If I say yes to this, what is my life going to look like in a month, in a year?
Which is a great point, because at the end of the day, we can't say yes to everything. Even when we think we're saying yes to everything, we're actually saying no to other things, which oftentimes, with what we're talking about here, is ourselves, our own fitness, right? You eventually, life makes it so you have to say no, whether you think you're saying no or not, right? But when you've said yes to, 6 different sporting activities and that committee or whatever it is, well, those are things that we have chosen, and you have all these yes. Eventually you hit a no. And with what we're talking about today, that no is often ourselves, our own body, our own health, our own fitness, our own mental health, everything that had to become the no because of all the yeses that we said somewhere else. So we're always saying no to something. We just need to be aware of what we're saying no to, and then actually take some control. That's a superpower, to be like, okay, not just be at the mercy of everything I have to say yes to out there. It's like you say, what benefits me? What is my vision for myself? What are my goals? Who do I want to be? Where do I want to go? And then you can choose your yeses and choose your no's.
And I know that there's somebody out there thinking that that's a very selfish thing to do, is because you're only thinking of yourself. Well, this is my life. And by saying no to other things and being healthy, I'm able to do more of the things that can benefit other people. And that's another thing that I go back to, is if I say yes to this, what am I going to put below that? What is less of a priority? Mm-hmm. And it isn't even just my own health and fitness. It's my ability to coach. It's my ability to reach out to other people. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's my ability to go have lunch with my mom. Mm-hmm. Things like that. So it isn't just being self-centered. Mm-hmm. It's about an appreciation for yourself and your own life. And I think it's really important that when you start saying no to things, you realize how much more you can say yes to.
And that is right on the money. I think my kind of ending thought to go along with that is, how I like my classic old books, and there's another one that I'm reading again. It's called The Science of Being Great. And he says, not word for word, but something along the lines of, there is no greater endeavor in life than making the most of yourself. right? And that's just it. You can look at being great or being fit and like, oh, that's a selfish thing, you know. But just like the things you listed, because you're fit and you're healthy and you're making the most of yourself and you're saying yes to that and no to other things, now you've got opportunity where you're coaching and you're leveraging your knowledge and your passion and you have a living that you love and that you enjoy. You finally found what you wanted to do when you grow up, right? You found
when
that.
I grow up.
And when but like all those things are directly due to the choices you've made and the actions you've taken. Because let's face it, if you're overweight, depressed, on medication, anxious, you've said no to what you currently get to do. Whether you think you said no, you didn't physically choose it, it's almost like life chooses for you because of all the other yeses or all the other things.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I think with that. I think we've wrapped up the topic of what we're going for. Good here.
I think we've reached the boom baby stage.
We've reached the boom.
Boom baby. Look over here. There we go.
So, hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, feel free. Joanne's always open to argue if you disagree with anything.
Please bring it on.
Comments, like, share. Our whole concept here is excuses or reasons. You're gonna choose with everything that you face in your life, and then that choice will determine everything else for you. So choose wisely, and we'll see you guys next time.